Alright, first off, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Shem Yahushai, Bashem Rakakwadash, double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who ruled well. Shalom to the brothers in the highways and byways pushing this word now, sincerity and truth. The sisters, the believers, the help. Shalom. This is brother Iron from Mr. Maker Camp doing another quick lesson, right? And this is just based on the this lesson is based upon polygamy, right? As you know, the Christians always preach that the Bible is against polygamy, and that polygamy is a sin. you know Before I continue, let me just give this disclaimer. All things are lawful, but not all things are expedient. So it's not that I'm saying that in these times that those who are striving for salvation are that you should go out of your way just to have more than one wife. But at the end of the day, it is lawful, right? It is lawful. But once again, as Paul quoted, all things are lawful, but not all things are expedient, especially in these times, right? Also, it states that a deacon or a bishop should be the husband of one wife. So if you're actually dedicating yourself to this work or to this word, you're making your body a living sacrifice, you would understand why it would be wise not to have more than one wife. Definitely would be able, as Paul said, that the husband, the husband of the wife cared of the things of the world and how he may please his wife. And he also said that he tells us these things so that we can attend upon the Lord without distraction. So the nature of this lesson is not to say that you should go there and have more than one wife, but it's about breaking down those strongholds and those principalities that rise up against the doctrine of Yahweh Shem Yahushai. All right. So firstly, it's in the law that it's okay for a man to have more than one wife. This is Exodus 21, and we'll start at verse 10. Right. It says, "If he take him another wife, her food, her raiment, and her duty of marriage shall he not diminish." All right. "And if he do not these three things unto her, then she shall go free without money." Now, this is in regards to a woman that a man has betrothed unto his son. Basically a woman that he bought. But the key point to this is that if he take him another wife, so it means that there are rules as it pertains to taking another wife, right? Food, raiment, and duty of marriage shall not be diminished. Also in the law it says that if a man have two wives, and when it's time for the inheritance, even if the son that he favors does not come from is not the firstborn, and it does not come from the wife which he actually pleased. As a matter of fact, let me see if I can find that. Firstborn. Guess that should be one word. All right. Probably it's in Deuteronomy. Salakia. Right. Deuteronomy 21, and I'll start at verse 15. It says, "If a man have two wives," so there I go again in the law again, showing that a man can have two wives, right? Even outside of the betrothal situation that we just read in Exodus 21, right? If a man have two wives, one beloved and another hated, and they have borne him children, both the beloved and the hated, and if the firstborn son be hers that was hated, then it shall be, when he maketh his sons to inherit that which he hath, that he may not make the son of the beloved firstborn before the son of the hated, which is indeed firstborn. But he shall acknowledge the son of the hated for the firstborn, by giving him a double portion of all that he hath, for he is the beginning of his strength, and the right of the firstborn is his. So those are two examples thus far, of it being in the law that a man can have two wives, right? Now, the scripture states that what it says in the New Testament, that sin is the transgression of the law, right? So basically, from you are not transgressing, right? The law states that you can have two wives, so it's not a sin. But they will tend to say that, oh, that is the Old Testament, and things change in the New Testament. Well, since this is a bad thing, let's see what the Lord Yahushua did when he gave a parable. Would the Lord, who you ignorantly call Jesus Christ, give a parable based off something that's unrighteous? Let us check. All right, let us check. Now this is Matthew 25, verse 1. It says, then shall the kingdom of heaven. So he's liking the kingdom of heaven. Let's see if he will give the kingdom of heaven, or make an example of the kingdom of heaven of something that's unrighteous. It says, then shall the kingdom of heaven be likened unto 10 virgins, which took their lamps and went forth to meet the bridegroom. Right? So that's 10 women going to meet the bridegroom. Now let's look up this word virgins. Remember, it's a parable, right? So it says virgin, a marriageable maiden, a woman who has never had sexual intercourse with a man, one's marriageable daughter, right? Now this is Hebrew culture, right? It was common in Hebrew culture to have more than one wife. So it wouldn't be an issue for the Lord to make a parable of such that is similar to this, right? It wouldn't be far off, right? We know that this is talking about the elect and the men that will be, as it says here, the second definition, a man who has abstained from all uncleanness and whoredom, attendant on idolatry, and so has kept his chastity, right? So we understand that it's referring to the elect, but nonetheless, he's using a carnal example, right, of a man, right, or of which is about to marry 10 wives or 10 virgins, right? So it says the kingdom of heaven is be likened unto 10 virgins, which took their lamps and went forth to meet the bridegroom. Five of them were wise, and 5 were foolish. They that were foolish took their lamps and took no oil with them, but the wise took oils in their vessels, with their lamps. While the bridegroom tarried, they all slumbered and slept. And at midnight was a cry made, behold, the bridegroom cometh, go ye out to meet him. Right? Then all those virgins arose and trimmed their lamps. And let me get to the point. Right? Now let's get to verse 10. It says, while they went to buy, the bridegroom came, and they that were ready went in with him to the marriage, and the door was shut. All right, so those virgins were actually being prepared to get married. All right, so the bride, who is the bridegroom? The husband, right? A wedding or marriage festival, a wedding banquet, a wedding feast, a marriage, matrimony. All right, so they were all getting ready to be married to the bridegroom. 10 of them, but 5 were wise, 5 were foolish, right? It says, and the door was shut. It says, afterward came also the other virgins, saying, Lord, Lord, open to us. But he answered and said, verily I say unto you, I know you not. All right. Notice that they also called him Lord. Now it was a common thing, or it was something that happened in Israel, where wives will call their husband lords because he's head over them, right? So no one looked at the fact that this parable was a parable of one man which was about to get married to 10 women, but he only chose 5 because they were wise and rejected the 5 that were foolish, right? Is this an unrighteous comparison? Is something wrong right here? Because you can't say that he's not the one that's going to marry these virgins, right? Because in Hebrew culture, we married virgins, right? So is it that you're, and who is, and he's a bridegroom? And we also went into the word virgins just now, talking about women of marriageable age. It's a carnal comparison, right? So it was Jesus supporting polygamy, or was he not? Is this parable about polygamy or not? And if it is, right, is polygamy right or wrong? This is a question for you Christians. Of course it's not, because the Lord is righteous. Yahushua is righteous. If it was something that's wrong, he wouldn't have made a comparison to it in regards to the kingdom of heaven. Right? So continuing on, this is 1 Corinthians 11 and 1. Right? It says, let me start at verse 3. It says, 1 Corinthians 11 verse 3 says, but I would have you know that the head of every man is Christ, or the Messiah, and the head of the woman is the man, and the head of the Messiah is God. All right, so that's the order. All right, so the husband is head of the woman, and they came and they said unto him, Lord, Lord. All right, as a matter of fact, let me check something real quickly. My history. It says Lord, Lord, Lord. Let me check on this word Lord real quickly. See, these Christians don't look at these things, and they don't ask these questions. Word Lord says, whom a person or thing, he to whom a person or thing belongs. If you look up the word husband in the Old Testament, one of those strands goes back to owner. Because this is another thing that the Christians won't admit either, that a husband owns his wife, but then they would actually buy them. They would actually have to pay for them, right? And Yahushua paid for the church, which is his bride, those virgins, with his blood. So we were bought with a price. That goes to show the spiritual comparison. But it's not just one person. He actually made it for many. 144,000, right? And the elect, right? The remaining of the third. It says, among which he has power of deciding, master, Lord, right? Possessor and disposer of a thing. The owner, one who has control of the person, the master, right? It says this is a title given to God, well, the Messiah and the Son, which is Yahushua, and the Most High is not the same person, right? But the Most High is a master as well. But the Messiah, this is referring to the Messiah being called Lord. Now let's see if women used to call their husband lords, right? Because Sarah said, would my Lord have pleasure, in his old age, something along those lines. But I'm going to get it from the Old Testament, or from the New Testament, because I don't want to make this too long, right? And making the comparisons, you can look up those words in the Old Testament as well in the BLB if you dare to, right? But just know that one of those words actually translates to owner, right? If you examine the Strongs. So this is 1 Peter 3 verse 5. It says, for after this manner in the old time the holy women also, who trusted in the Most High, adorned themselves, being in subjection to their own husbands, just as how the church should be in subjection to Yahushua, even as Sarah obeyed Abraham, calling him Lord, whose daughters ye are, as long as ye do well and are not afraid with any amazement. So this was being directed to the women in the church. But as you can see, Sarah called Abraham Lord, and Abraham was his husband, right? Let me check if the same word for Lord here. Yes, it's the same word. All right. Now let's check. Let's check the book of, what's that book? Just had the precepts in right. Ephesians. All right, let's check the book of Ephesians. Now this is Ephesians 5, and let's start at verse 29. It says, "For no man had ever hated his own flesh, but nourished it and cherished it, even as the Lord the church," meaning the Hawashai, right? "For we are members of his body and his flesh and of his bone." As you know, the term in the scripture, bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh, right? Verse 31 says, "For this cause shall a man leave his father and mother, and shall be joined unto his wife, and they two shall be one flesh." Right? And remember that there are multiple churches. So if you're going to say that, it's just the overall the one church is one wife and Christ has one wife, we have a precept for that as well. But moving on, it says, "This is a great mystery, but I speak concerning the Messiah and the church." Right? So there you go. Right? And once again, as I said, we know that the scripture says that the deacon and the bishop, should be the husband of one wife. But this just goes to show that, hey, the church is likened unto women. So these are the virgins, the members of the church. These are the virgins, which the parable was talking about. So it, as I said, it gives a carnal example. Now the next precept I want to visit is 2 Corinthians 11 and verse 1. It says, "Would to God ye could bear with me a little in my folly, and indeed bear with me, for I am jealous over you with godly jealousy, for I have espoused you to one husband, and that I may present you as a chaste virgin to the Messiah." All right. So it goes again to show that, these virgins, they apply to the church. But why did the parable go ahead to say one virgin? He was supposed to get 10, but he chose 5. He didn't choose one. He went ahead and he went and married 5. All right. Now let's see what Revelation says. Right. This is Revelation 14 verse 4. It says, "These are they." Well, let me read up a bit. It says, "And I looked, and lo, a lamb stood on Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, having his father's name written in their foreheads. And I heard a voice from heaven, as the voice of many waters, and as the voice of a great thunder. And I heard the voice of harpers harping with their harps. And they sung as it were a new song before the throne and before the 4 beasts and the elders. And no man could learn that song but the 144,000 which were redeemed from the earth. These are they which are not defiled with women, for they are virgins. These are they which followed the Lamb whithersoever he goeth. These were redeemed from among men, being the first fruits unto God and to the Lamb. And in their mouth was found no guile, and they are without fault before the throne." So once again, it says that it's showing that these are virgins, referring to the men, right? But as you can see, these virgins plural, which the parable were referring to these virgins, right? Meaning them, the men that were redeemed, the elect. But once again, it was a carnal example that was used of a man that was about to marry 10 women, and he actually rejected 5 and chose 5, and he married them, right? That is polygamy. Now there's a precept that they like to use, and we'll get into that. Right, 1 Corinthians 7 verse 2. It says, "Nevertheless, to avoid fornication, let every man have his own wife, and let every woman have her own husband." Right? Now, I have a diagram here. Let's examine it. Now, let's say that with both triangles, the blue one on the top to the left is a man, and the pink one at the top to the right is a man as well. It says, let every husband have their own wife and every wife their own husband. What that means is the man that's a blue, he should have his own wife, meaning that he can sleep with any one of the pink that is there, right? And the same applies for the man that's the pink. He can sleep with any one of the blues that are on his side. Now for the women, they can the ones on the left can sleep with the man that is the blue, and the ones on the right, which are the blues, can sleep with the man that is the pink. But at no point, the ones that are at the bottom, the pinks that are at the bottom and the blues that are at the bottom, the pinks cannot go to the pink, and the blue cannot go to the blue that's on top. The pinks cannot go to the pinks on top. The blues cannot go to the blue on top, because that's not their husband. Neither can the blue go to the blue on top cannot go to the blue at the bottom, nor the pink at the top cannot go to the pink at the bottom. Reason being, they are not his wife, right? So let's go back to the precept. Let's read it again. It says, it said, nevertheless, to avoid fornication, let every man have his own wife, and let every woman have her own husband. So the pinks, for the pinks, their husband is the blue. For the blues, their husbands are the pink. And that's just it. Right? That's just it. So at no point they need to go to the other side. Alright? Now if the pink was to actually sleep with if the pinks at the bottom should sleep with the pink on top, that's them committing fornication. And if the blues at the bottom should sleep with the blue on the top, then that's committing fornication. So it says, to avoid fornication, let every man have their own husband, have their own wives, Salakia, and let every wife have their own husband, which the two sides are separated, right? So that's all that's saying, but they try to twist it to say that one woman to one man, right? Where that only applies to the bishops and the deacons. Now, if you're not a bishop or a deacon, then what applies to you? Because that was specific to them, right? So really hope this was edifying. Once again, this is not to say that you go out there and you wild out and have 1,000,001 woman, but it just shows that the scripture does not support monogamy, right? So all praises to Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai, Bashem Rakak Wadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well. Salakia Shalom to the brothers in the highways and byways pushing this word in all sincerity and truth. The sisters, the believers, the helps. Shalom.